you know.
Hi, it's Carolyn, the Contest Queen, and I'm recording this because it's Mercury Retrograde, and this video was supposed to be live, but I'm recording it on Zoom with my very special guest, the aspiring alchemist, aka Chris Grieder, and we're going to have a wonderful chat. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take any of your questions, but I promise I will have Chris back again at another time where you can ask him your questions. Now, let me tell you a little bit about him before we get started. He is absolutely passionate about films and music, and he's been directing music videos for about 20 years. Now, you're thinking, why is he on with the Contest Queen? Well, there's a very good reason. Just wait. He had in 2017 started to tap into spirituality. Oh, now it makes sense, right? And he helps people also create their own magical life, which is why he's an aspiring alchemist. And we want to turn that lead into gold.
That's right.
Now, I found him on TikTok. I love my TikTok. So you've got to go find him on TikTok. He's amazing. He's on Instagram, but he's not as active. So he's definitely a TikToker. And he gives amazing short talks on spiritual philosophy. I love watching him. And so I want everybody to go follow him. And he also coaches people on how to empower themselves and their perspectives. And so I wanted to bring him on to help all my followers help have a winning mindset, which is all what we need if we want to win those prizes, because you got to believe you're a winner and think you're a winner before you are a winner. And so let's talk to Chris and see how we can turn some of that lead into gold. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for having me. I like that, a while back when you reached out to me and offered to send me some books, I was like, oh, this is great. Like I didn't, when I made my TikTok, I wasn't anticipating getting, a community on there. I just kind of was posting some videos of thoughts. So it was really cool to see people like you reaching out, just being like, hey, like I think you'd like Helen Hadsel's books and these things. And I realized you actually updated the books and stuff, right? Like I didn't realize at first she was, I guess, a mentor to you, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. Yeah. And I just learned about Helen Hadsel. I mean, it's all law of attraction, right? So I just learned about her, and then I got your email, and I'm like, oh, here's another reflection of
Oh,
energies at. It was really fun.
that's so funny. I didn't realize the timing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting how that works. I've learned through different teachers that sometimes you can be the answer to someone else's prayer or the validation for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I've
So,
had that happen the other way to me, which is kind of cool, because I did a vision board. I've got to show you this. I did a vision board, and I put on there that I wanted Jose Silva's original course that Helene took. And I put it on there, and I thought, okay, I'll see if I can find it one day. And then 3 weeks later, someone
it
messaged
found you.
me and says, hey, I'm cleaning out my house. I have this old tape set. Would you like it?
So
I'm
cool.
like, yes, please. So it's
All it
funny
takes,
how it
yeah.
sometimes you're the recipient and sometimes you're the giver.
Yeah, all it takes is a few of those experiences to start realizing that your thoughts and your attention are at least influencing the outcomes in your life, if not completely dictating them, you know? And that's sort of the line where people get confused, because some people, they might think, well, maybe my thoughts and emotions and stuff are playing a role, but I don't think, it's scary for people to think that they have sole responsibility for their own creation. You know what I mean? And I've had enough experiences now where I can make the connections of where, because I've become so mindful of what I'm thinking, because half the time we're not even aware of the thoughts that are just popping into our
Yeah.
heads all day, right? So now I catch it because, through the work of just becoming sensitive to my emotions, because it's like if I feel the slightest tension, I'm like, oh, there's a thought going on. What's the thought? And then I see it, and then if I see a reflection in the outer world, I start making the connections and being like, okay, like, this is all
Oh.
my creation, and it is a responsibility to create life however you want, but it's okay if you create a mess, you can always clean it up.
And sometimes things have to fall apart to fall together a certain way. And
That's
if sometimes people are asking for certain things in their life. So for example, if they're looking to make more money in their job, and the next thing they know is the company goes under and now they're unemployed, they're like, wait a minute, I was focusing on more money. Well, yeah, you needed to get rid of that job to maybe start your own business or find something better,
yep.
because you weren't leaving that role. And so the universe goes, well, yeah, you want to make more money. Yeah. So we're going to take that away. So that clears the path and then you can go.
Yeah, there's always something working behind the scenes. I wanted to be a professional skateboarder whenever I was a kid, and I broke my ankle 4 times. And then they had to re-break it in my fourth for a surgery because the growth plates. So I was really devastated because like my whole vision was being a pro skateboarder. But that led, I had to be around skateboarding, so I started filming skateboarding and like teaching myself editing, and then that brought me from Florida to LA making music videos, and it like took off with a whole career and a new passion that I never would have known was in my heart had I not been kind of forced away from that's why and this might be the difference between us too, is like I can be intentional with things and be very specific with a thing that I want, but also ultimately accept if there's something else in play that I'm not aware, because sometimes you don't have the bigger picture. Like, oh, like this video not being able to record live, like who knows, maybe it was better for us to do it like this for whatever reason we don't even know, you know.
Right.
So it's kind of like that radical acceptance, because at the end of the day, radical acceptance brings you peace, whereas resisting doesn't. So even if that's all you get out of it, you know what I mean? But I actually think radical acceptance or infinite patience produces like immediate results, you know.
Well, I'm learning that myself. So I haven't really told this story anywhere, but when I was driving down to Texas, I was going to the cemetery in Defiance, Ohio to pay my respects to Evelyn Ryan, because there was a book and a movie called The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio, written and shot. And Evelyn Ryan, I wanted to go and pay my respects to her as I was driving to Texas to get Helene Hatzel's, the remains of her library and her business materials, because I'm, now taking care of her legacy.
Incredible.
And I was waiting to turn into the cemetery and someone rear-ended me and totaled my car.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, okay. And I was just trying to accept, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like literally I had a small bruise on one knee. That was it. I was absolutely fine. If you looked at the front of the car, you couldn't even tell it was in an accident.
Yeah.
I had just emptied the trunk and shipped off all the prizes that I had donated to the convention. So I literally emptied the trunk. So the universe did wait till I sent all those off, because there was a lot of fragile things in there.
Yeah.
And I went, all right, I like that Jetta, but
yeah.
And I thought, okay, now what do I do? And I got taken to the collision center. I thought, okay, I'm going to just go with the flow. And I got a hold of my insurance company and they said, well, you do have car, because I said, look, I've got a problem. Everything's closing in 15 minutes. I'm 7 hours drive from home. I'm in another country. I need some help. What do I do? And he said, oh, you have rental in your policy. And I said, I do. And he said, well, we can arrange it for you. I said, well, can I do it? And then you guys just pay for it. And he said, yes. And I look over and 6 feet to my left was the Enterprise dealership, Enterprise car rental. And I look at the guy and I go, hey, I need a car. What do you need? And within like an hour, I was back on the road as if nothing had happened. I was in a rental. So
a cool nuance to all of that is the fact that had you reacted differently, it might not have even come into your awareness that there was a place right there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's weird how things unfold when we're less reactive to them and just like being like, oh, it's a very Taoist way of being like, just let it all go downstream. Like, don't fight the current. Like, where are you being taken? And it's nice to try to apply that as often as you can. Of course, we are human. We are meant to experience some resistance. Otherwise, we would have stayed in that angelic realm, right? We wanted to come here to expand. So it's okay if you're not there, but it's great when you can apply that and just be detached.
Well, it was a bit hard because I did miss my car. I did notice it's interesting. I was grieving a little bit. I'm like, oh, gee. I figured there has to be a universal reason. I'm like, all right, I'll go with it. I don't have to like it. I can accept. That's one of my favorite teachers, Robert Ahato. He says, you just have to accept it. You don't have to like it.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit there for a while.
Yeah. Well, also,
then, I had to get something new when I got back, but so that worked out okay. But it was like going with the flow and thinking what's in your 3D now is from the past. And then there's also, I kind of believe, our soul contract. Like, you weren't meant to be a skateboarder. You were meant to go down this other path. And so the universe kept breaking your poor little ankle.
By the way, you know what's really funny? Actually, this is like the philosopher in me. I'm always thinking other perspective. I'm always thinking of, even like when I think of something, then I think of another perspective to challenge it. So I'm like, was it me attracting things based on where my energy was at? And that was an intention of mine. And then through the asking, because the idea is like when you're experiencing what you don't want, you're asking for new, really just emotions. I wanted more levels of like, a way to express myself. Skateboarding was my way of expressing myself. So I was chasing that, right? So it was like, maybe I tapped in, by experiencing the absence of it, I tapped in this other thing. But now I didn't think about this until just now when you said it's like I was having my ankle broken for a reason and stuff. I'm writing a movie and it's going to star like a somewhat known actor. He's a friend of mine. He's like in quite a lot of movies and TV shows, and he wanted to star in it. And it's about a guy who's like entering his 40s, and he was trying to be a pro skateboarder when he was like a teenager, and an injury took him out. And now he's like a family man and has his life, he's all settled down. And he just decides he just wants to try to be a pro skateboarder now, like at 40. And everyone's like, what is this guy doing? And he's like chasing that passion. And it's funny because this is going to be a really fun project and a movie that I'm really excited about. But I think because I had those experiences, it kind of sparked that idea, so maybe that was part of the purpose of it as well, so I could create this great movie way later in my life.
Yeah, you never know where it's kind of going to go. Yeah. And you have to just trust. Trusting is the hardest part, I think, for a lot of people, and the unknown.
Yeah.
And
that's why everyone's scared of death.
Yeah.
The unknown, right?
Yeah. We're gonna dial it back a little bit from there.
Yeah. No, but I always feel that way too. Unknown in general.
The unknown in general. And that's
your comfort zone. Yeah.
One of the things people, when they're entering sweepstakes, so there's two approaches. Helene had hers, because I know you read her book, where she would pick a prize and laser focus all her energy on it and win that one prize. Mm-hmm. But I'm more of, I call it the Christmas approach, where or shotgun approach, where I don't know what I'm going to get. I do like scattering my energy a little bit, because to me that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Where I'll enter this and this and this and this and this and this. And she even told me, she said, yeah, you're splitting your energy. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's fun. So I think you have to go with how you enjoy it. And so I split my energy, and then I don't know what I'm going to win. And then to me, it's fun when I just get a call or an email saying, hey, you won tickets to this, or you won that, or look what just showed up in the mail. I kind of like it. I like that.
I'm really curious how this all came about for you. Were you always interested in contests, and then, or did you how did you find Helene Hadsel? Like, how did this all happen?
Oh, that's so funny. I never sent you my books. Because my story's in there. That's hilarious.
Okay, yeah. I've skimmed through the books you sent me, and also there's something I want to bring up later that I saw her talking about levitating. That was in one of the books. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We can talk about it off camera too. Yeah. But yeah, I've flipped through it and stuff. I tend to read slowly, so I don't know if your backstory was in there, but yeah, I'm just curious how all that worked out for you.
So I always liked the idea of winning. And I even remember being a teenager. This is going to date me, because I would stand in the kitchen on the rotary dial phone trying to call the radio stations to win prizes, and, getting through. And I remember one time I was 14 and I won concert tickets. And because I was only 14, I had to send my mom to the radio station to get the tickets. And then her and I went to the concert. And yeah, that was fun. So I knew people could win. And then years later, when I was unemployed, and my ex-husband had bought me, I call him my husband. Because ex sounds so harsh.
My husband.
Because that was just a period of my life. And so he's my husband. And he had bought me a subscription Reader's Digest because I like to read in bed, but I always ended up reading these, hardbacks, and they're heavy. And so I like the Reader's Digest because they were short and stuff. And I read an article about a couple who enhanced their lifestyle by entering sweepstakes as a hobby. And I thought, what a good idea. Now, I was unemployed at the time. I got caught in that big .com bubble. And I thought, what a good idea. I don't have to work. I'll just win for a living. It does not work that way. If I could earn my living winning, I would have figured it out by now. I enter contests as a hobby, and then I earn my living by, teaching and writing, and I work with companies running their promotions.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I still have to work.
I feel like it's better to be a hobby though, because, if it starts becoming a job, it might take the fun out of it,
I do tell people if it starts to feel like work to stop, because it is supposed to be a fun hobby. And if you go in with the energy of dread, you're not going to win.
Or if you do win, it's just not going to be worth all the energy you were putting into it. You're like, you ever heard that phrase where it's like, you can't have a happy destination after an unhappy journey to it? It's like, by the time you get there, you're just so it's like, imagine this. It's like, imagine you get in the car with your friend and you're going to drive across the country for 3 days because you guys are going to like some music festival or some whatever. And the whole time you're bickering, and then you blow out a tire and your wallet gets stolen and whatever. So 3 days later, you end up at the event and you're just drained and you're like, oh God, like you don't even fully get to enjoy it. You know what I mean? So even if that person wins, they're like, oh, cool. It's great.
Oh.
Like,
or there could be something wrong with the prize. Yeah, I've never heard that. I like that expression.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, a good time for a water break. I always show people that, oh, look, the water bottle that I won.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you've won all kinds of stuff. I follow your TikToks. I see all your little unboxings.
Yeah, the little stuff. So it's funny because my favorite prizes are the big ones that I can't unbox, like the trips. You can't unbox a trip. You can just tell people that you won it and then show them when you're there. Unfortunately, I don't win as many of those as I would like either. So why don't you, so what I would like you to tell people is how you started on your spiritual journey, because you said it was around 2017. So what was the catalyst? And then how did you go from reading things for, I guess technically it's 5 years now, but last year you got on TikTok. So after 4 years, you decided to go on TikTok and share all this really great knowledge in them. And now it wasn't until I got your bio that I realized why you're so good at TikTok, because you're a storyteller. You're a born storyteller, because that's why you're so good at films and videos. Like in directing for like career, and that's the storyteller. So tell us your story.
Sure. Yeah. So at the time I just was going through a lot of, I was just heartbroken actually, and I just I'd been putting a lot of energy into like a relationship that just wasn't serving me, and I kind of reached this point where I was like, oh, like I'm just so tired. I spent so much of my life making my happiness be conditioned on other people's behaviors, right? And I was kind of like, I cannot rely on other people to behave in ways to make me happy. And I needed to get out of this depression. So at first, it wasn't a spiritual thing. At first, it was very like, I'm just gonna work hard, and I'm listening to like Tony Robbins and like all these motivational speakers that are like, get up and work out every day and get up early and write out your goals and all this stuff. So I'm like, I was creating a vision of the life that I wanted and the person I wanted to be, and I'm like doing all this stuff, and it was exhausting because it was like, but also it felt like, hey, I'm getting something done. Like I'm forcing myself to like put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm gonna get up at 6 a.m. every morning, and I'm gonna go run and eat healthy and, do like, just write out 3 goals for the day and whatever. And that I'm a very like lazy person, if that's the word you want to use. I'm very chill. Like I don't want to do that kind of stuff. So it was a little hard to sustain, but I was sticking with it because it was getting me out of my funk.
Yeah.
And then I found a video whenever I'd just been watching a bunch of Tony Robbins, because the classic saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's like, that's where my teacher was. That's what I was ready for at the time. Then I found an interview of Tony Robbins interviewing this guy that I had never heard of. Now he's one of my favorite people ever, Wayne Dyer. And so I was like, oh, who's Wayne Dyer? So I listened to this interview with him. I'm like on the treadmill, and that was my routine. I go to the treadmill at the gym, and I'm like listening to these like motivational things. And this guy was talking like it resonated way more, because he's all about like, be still and let it all come to you, and like, center yourself with and I'm like, yeah, because we've all had those moments in our life when we get into a flow and everything's like click, 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 like we catch a wave, and like I've definitely known that. I've just never known the science of what that is or how to sustain it, right? And all this stuff. So again, the idea is here is like words, like learning things verbally or through text or whatever. That's not really what teaches you. It's applying those words and then getting experiences. So I started meditating. I started making the connection of what was unfolding in my life based on what I was, doing it with my energy just previously before that. Because the idea is like, you're always, it's almost like I started to realize the current reality is actually the old news. It's like what's current is what you're vibrationally outputting right now. So it's like when you see when you see lightning and then you hear the thunder, it's like our outer reality is like the delay, right? So I understood that like, oh, this is the delayed response of what I previously queued up. I started really catching that. And I do want to add one thing here.
Yeah.
One thing I want to add to this was, at the time, I started having all of this quote unquote magic, right? I realize now it's not magic. It is magic, but to use that term like just makes your subconscious think it's so rare. I started seeing all this magical stuff. I would think something, it would happen. I would be like, just in my head, I'd be like, I'm thirsty. And the second I think it's someone's like, hey, you want some water? It was just like, you know what I mean? It was like every little thing that I wanted was like, just like you need a rental car and you turn and it's right there. Those kind of things became so those kind of things became so often. And what I loved about that period of my life, it was from 2017 to 2018, all this magic was going on. And what I loved about it was that I hadn't gotten too far into the intellectual side of it yet, that I was just open. I kept saying, I didn't know what to call it. I'm like, God, universe. Like I started realizing like, there is a higher power here. I believe that you're aware of me. Like, please just surprise and delight me. I saw you make a video about this the other day, just asking for a surprise. Please surprise and delight me. And it was one thing after another, to a point where I'm like, I don't think people are even going to believe these stories. You know what I mean? And what I liked about it was that I wasn't clinging on to an intellectual idea of how this all works yet. I started to learn that. And now I think I've actually limited myself a little bit more. I still have magical things happen, but I've boxed myself in a little bit more, because now I'm like, oh yeah, it's because X, Y, and Z. And if I'm not getting what I want, then I got to shift this. And like, but really I just was open to like the understanding that I don't fully understand this universe, and just show me how good it can get. Right. So once I had those experiences, I think over time, I just got really into like a lot of teachings, Abraham Hicks, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Deepak Chopra, Alan Watts. I mean, I actually always liked Alan Watts, but like it started clicking, Ram Dass, just all these people, and some people who are a little more under the radar as well. Even like YouTubers, like this guy Aaron Doughty. I'm sure you might have heard of him, but yeah, like I just was so into it. And then last year, my friend was like, you got to get on TikTok and you got to talk about this stuff. And I'm like, no one's gonna watch that, but okay. And then little did I know, like there actually is a spiritual community on TikTok. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be like kids dancing. Like, what's this guy talking about? But I'm like, no. Now I realize it's a good thing. TikTok has all kinds of great content on there. So I'm glad I pushed through that resistance and got on there. And now I do coaching and try to help people reframe their problems and see them, as empowering as they can, and realize that they can shift it. You are the creator of your life. You can clean up any mess that's in your life, and it starts with what we said before, making peace with what is and getting momentum moving towards what you want.
Yeah, the little bit of patience is the key there, right? Because you had to push through the part where your body is like, that's a little bit of Mel Robbins, right? The 5 4 3 2 1, just get up and do it because you're feeling lazy. No one's ever going to feel like going to the gym. No one's ever going to feel like eating healthy. No one's ever going to feel like, there's certain things you just never feel like doing them, but you just do them, and then it actually helps you. And look what happened. It got you motivated enough that you started finding those other teachers and going down that path. So so sometimes you just have to push through it with what is to get to that next level where it just kind of, the hard part seems to fall away and it gets easier. Do you still force yourself to get up super early or no?
No, but I think I'm gonna try that out again soon. My schedule's kind of been backwards. I've been staying up late working on editing for some videos right now, and then I tend to be quite a night owl. I tend to like the quiet nights of just being creative, and so
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm an early bird, and all summer I get up at 5 a.m. to go code hunting to find winning opportunities.
I love that.
So I'm the opposite, and actually that's when I do like the quiet. I like the quiet in the morning, where if I'm not doing that and I get up early, I'll sit in my office where it's quiet, the same, and do the creative stuff for the day. That's very funny. So what was your favorite magical manifestation that people be like, that I can't believe that?
Well, I guess I'll tell you one that I don't think anybody is gonna believe, but like, and I actually made a post about this once on my TikTok, and people did believe it on my, some of my followers and stuff, which was cool. But okay, yeah, I'll tell this one. So I was with a friend at like a Halloween party. I want to say 2018 maybe, and this is like right when the drink White Claw had came out, and so this party was like sponsored by White Claw. It was like their, it was like an open bar thing and whatever. So I had my first one. It was like a black cherry flavor, and I'm talking to my friend on this back patio, and at the time, I'd been having just all these amazing things. I was having visions and dreams where I'd wake up and then they'd happen. I was having all these wild things that really just make you be like, am I going crazy here? What is this dream life, But I started at the time, I was getting really curious about like metaphysics and quantum physics and all these, I was just curious how flexible this world really was. So I put out this message, because I'm always communicating to whatever that higher power is, source, spirit, my higher self, who knows? It's that non-resistant part that's working with you when you get in alignment with it. So I was kind of like asking, like, please show me in a way that's comfortable, but it's going to be jarring no matter what. But I was like, just show me how flexible physical reality can be, right? So anyways, I've been putting out that message for a couple days. Now I'm at this Halloween party, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who's not spiritual, but every time I'm around him, magical things happen because he's always like in a great energy. He's kind of a rock star, actually. He has like a famous band and hit songs and all this stuff. He knows how to manifest the life that he wants. He just doesn't realize he's doing it. You know what I mean? So I'm always around him and all these cool things happen. I'm sitting there talking to him. I finished my first White Claw, and then a moment later, I got my second one. So, maybe it's like an hour now into the party, and I'm, almost done with my second one, and he's telling me a story, and I'm holding the can at my side, standing up like this, and it's empty. And as he's finishing his story, I think, okay, when he's done talking, I'm gonna go get my third White Claw, and I want to try a different flavor because both of them have been black cherry now. And as I think it, the can, I don't drop it. It just like shoots. I feel it like shoot out of my hand. It's like, whoop. And the way, like, I'm looking at him, but the way it landed by my foot felt odd because it wasn't like ting, ting, ting and roll away. It was like thud. It was like, and so I let him finish his story, and I reached down. It was like drop, thud. Okay, but while he finishes his sentence, I reach down and I pick up, and it's an unopened mango flavored can. of White Claw. And I had just thought, oh, whenever he's done telling his story, I'll get a new flavor, a new can. And I'm looking around and the empty black cherry one is gone. And I don't, in my head, I go, thank you. Wow. Cause like, I know like, this is it. Like this is what I was like, this is what I was asking for, but I'm trying to keep my cool. And I look at him and I'm like, I pop the tab and he looks at me kind of weird. Cause he knew I had an empty can in my hand and it drops and just goes thuds. And I reach down and I just like open up a new one. And he looks at me and he was like, wait, what was that? And I'm like, what? And he's like, and I'm like, did you see that? Like, I didn't want to get into it with him because I knew it just would not compute. So I was like, that was an empty can. And he's like, yeah, but, and he's looking everywhere for the empty one and it's nowhere in sight. Like there's nothing. And so I just like let it go. But the whole night, actually for the whole like following week, I was just like on cloud 9. I was like, wow. But what I loved about that experience was that I couldn't have consciously done that. I couldn't have been like, I now turn my empty can into a full can with a new flavor. It was just like a soft desire and an intention, and me being in that right energetic place at the time and having this intention and desire to see physical reality be manipulated or changed or whatever. But it still boggles my mind because I'm like, well, how do the physics of it work? Did it in midair? Did the information shift and now I'm interpreting it as a new, I don't know, physical reality just really trips me out. And that I've definitely had some beautiful experiences. That was the most like, wow, this is like some undeniable thing. But and almost a little scary, but ultimately a good thing because I was like, I'd been putting out this intention. I knew I wanted to see something that made me never question that reality can change before your eyes, So yeah, that's my craziest one. Maybe not my most exciting one. I definitely have like really beautiful ones.
I think that's exciting.
Yeah. Like I've had, yeah.
Sorry. I think you would like Daryl Anka. He channels Bashar.
Yeah, I like a lot of his messages.
And he did a video on how to win the lottery. And what you do is you don't worry about the lottery. You don't worry about, am I picking the winning numbers? What you do is you pick numbers and then you bend reality so that you have the winning numbers. And I think basically that's what you did. You wanted another White Claw and you literally just bent reality for your next flavor.
Right. Just without trying. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you did. You just bent reality to match the next step. You just kind of skipped a step. You just didn't have to go to the bar.
Exactly. That was actually that's actually when I realized that like at that time I was on such a different level because it was exciting, but it also felt natural. It was like, oh, I just, like you said, I just skipped a step. I just, there's many ways to get what you want. And I just like cut out the middleman for a moment, like on this one or something. It was a strange experience.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna have a lot of people trying to bend reality, to shift reality for prizes. I wonder what prizes would show up for people. I'm gonna have everybody who's gonna try this leave comments on what showed up when you tried this experiment for yourself. And I think we can paraphrase it to prizing because that's what we talk about here. We can bend reality to winning.
Absolutely. You can bend it to anything. I would suggest if the listeners were to try that, to maybe do it in a way where they're not so specific, but they say, okay, universe, bring me a prize that is something that I could really use. Cause like there's all kinds of things that you don't even know, like you really would love to have, right? Like kind of put that up and not be so, because again, the can thing, it wasn't like I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. It was just like for a couple days, I was like, I'm ready to see reality bend, right? So it's kind of nice to have that general idea, at least for me. But if it feels good being specific, then I say go for it. If you're like, well, they're giving away this Mercedes and it just feels natural for me, like if you want to do that, then go for it. But I think sometimes the more specific you get, a little more resistance can come in because you go, well, it's more limited, it's more like rare. It's, you know, it's nice to just kind of have a general
Yeah.
intention, you know? Yeah.
Also, I think what you did unconsciously, because I didn't hear you verbalize it, but I think you did it, was also for the highest good.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
You're
I'm
open
trying
to
to,
whatever it is because it's for the highest good of.
yeah, and
So
I was,
like that's how you ended up going from skateboarding to movie making, I think, because it's for the highest good of all. And
yes,
now you're getting these messages out to all these people
it's true.
that you might not have been able to do
No,
had
no
you
way.
stayed on the skateboard path or in the
Exactly.
skateboard park.
I would have stayed at ordinary human consciousness, and that's okay. That's not a put down. Ordinary human consciousness is just where our evolution is at, but we are now, you know, evolving farther, and more people are reaching higher levels. There's no end, right? There's no end to our consciousness rising as we evolve, as humanity evolves, you know. So
Yeah, it's fun. I love that story though. And after you
sort
told it,
of
I'm
got
like
past that
thinking,
one.
I think I remember you telling that story on
I
TikTok, because
made a
like I
TikTok,
said,
but
I've been watching him
I've
for a
told a bunch.
while.
I have a playlist on my TikTok. If anyone watching wants to go check it out, there's actually a playlist called Magical Stories, and it's just me
Ooh,
telling. It's just me telling a bunch of things that have happened like that are really cool. Like I
oh,
want to
that's fun. I might go and see if I can duet
pay
one
a
or
swim.
two of those if I can find it to fit my audience, because that is kind of
Oh.
cool.
Yeah, here's a quick one, just real quick. I wanted to pay to go swim. It was like an overwhelming urge, and for like a couple, like wow, like why have I never gone somewhere to swim with dolphins? And then a few days later, I went to the beach by myself, and there was like 15 dolphins in the water at the shore, and I just ran out there and swam with them, like naturally. I just wasn't. They just happened to be at the spot I felt compelled to go to, and there was nobody around, and there was like 15 dolphins. I'm like, are you kidding? Yeah, it's like I'm spooning, hollering. It's just like magical moment. And it was what I wanted for like 2 days, and then it just naturally happened, you know. So I was like, wow, like, you know, things like that can happen when you're just in that. And I'm not always there. That's, I don't want to give out that impression, but things like that can happen when you're operating from those higher levels of just having an open heart, really having an open heart, and an understanding that this world is not, it's benevolent, you know, it loves you, and it can work with you if you allow it, you know.
Yeah, the other thing too is you gave the key there. You said I had this overwhelming urge, and that's the thing I think people don't do. Is that to me is your
Mm-hmm.
inner voice saying turn left or go straight or
Yes.
get down to this beach or whatever it is or enter this giveaway. Like I'm
Yep.
really compelled to enter this one. I don't know why. I've never wanted a trip to, XYZ, but I feel compelled to enter. And I think because you followed your voice, you had that, oh my gosh, I'm here alone with all these dolphins. And so I
It was
think more
absolutely
people need
great.
to follow their little voice for whatever it is, whether they want to cook or enter a sweepstakes or film movies or whatever it is.
Is there a particular type of contest that you prefer entering over any other?
I have to say, I do like the pin code contest because um, you have to have a code to enter. And so I believe my odds of winning are increased. Now, strangely enough, this year for Canada Dry, they have one every summer, and I usually win something fairly good in the first couple of weeks. And last year, I've won an e-reader, headsets, a coffee maker, some good prizes that are really useful. And last year, I won a hot tub, which was
Oh,
amazing. And then
that's,
this year, I won a t-shirt near the end of the sweepstakes. And I was like, wow, like same, like dozens and dozens and dozens of codes and nothing. So I don't know what was up with that one, but I usually win fairly well from them. So
do you
we'll
ever
see. Maybe
play?
it's this year's energy. Maybe it's the 22 energy. We'll see if it changes for 2023.
Yeah. Do you ever play the Monopoly games at the grocery stores when they do that and stuff?
Actually, it just started here at McDonald's. We don't have it at the grocery stores. We have it at McDonald's. Every company does it different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't won anything yet, but I've only gone to get one drink so far. I didn't manage to get out today. Tomorrow I am gonna go and get stuff.
I love that you teach this stuff because it's such a specific like niche. And I'm sure just now I'm talking to you, I'm just now realizing how many people probably share this hobby with you, you know, like who can find you and be like, oh, that's a fun hobby, like entering contests. Like, you know, like it might be people who never really thought to try that in this way, you know. So it's really cool that you do that.
Well, I do know that I'm going to bring you over to the to the winning side, because now what's going to happen, and because I know you're open to this, I can already tell you're going to start to spot the word win everywhere. And it is everywhere. And that's one of the reasons I like the pin code contest, because a lot of people, they don't even notice that their packages have, you know, sweepstakes on it. They just throw it in the recycle bin or throw it away, or they'll walk right past it in a store. And you're already saying, oh, did you notice that the McDonald's is at the supermarket? And I bet you if you're in the supermarket and the person ahead of you is buying a lot of groceries and they're giving out those little tokens or codes or whatever, and I bet you they might not play. And you could say to them, well, if you're not going to use those codes, can I have them? And a lot of times they go, sure, here, because they think it's a waste of time. Nobody ever wins. It's a scam. And I go, thank you. And then I take them and I go home and I win stuff.
That's so cool.
And you can do it too. You're going to spot it now because you're going to be everywhere. And it's cool because the sweepstakes are everywhere. You'll see signs at the grocery store, the convenience store, billboards. You'll hear it on the radio. You'll see a website. You might spot a TikTok that comes across that's a promotion. You gotta know them.
Here's an interesting thought and insight that might be of value to your listeners and stuff. And it just occurred to me now, but there's like so many ways to quote unquote manifest something, right?
Right.
There's ultimately it's like whatever law of attraction is, if you want to call it that, you can call it, I've called it the universal algorithm. It's like something in place, you know, it's something in place that is managing all these vibrations and managing our beliefs, our expectations, our thoughts, emotions, the mixture of all that, and then the co-creation within all that. You know, if somebody else has an intention that's held stronger than yours, theirs wins out or whatever. Like there's all. And something that's interesting is like so much of our experiences are based on what our subconscious is doing, what we're impressing our subconscious with. And so if you're entering a bunch of contests and you're winning some and losing some, as you observe what's happening, subconscious mind learns, oh, sometimes I don't win. Sometimes I might not win this thing I want, you know? And so because this other one didn't work out. And so it's almost, and this is the trickiest part, is like to be able to be neutral and to almost like not even notice when you don't win and just still have that mentality of like, I always win. You know what I mean? It's just like, because, or to downplay that aspect, like to be like, oh yeah, like I usually get lucky with this, you know? It's like, it makes more sense. Like, and it's so funny because there's all these tools for manifesting. Neville Goddard, I'm sure you might have heard of him. Like he's got all these little tools he's created. One of them that might apply to some of your listeners is the revision tool. So it's like when they go and check the email or they check the mail or the thing, which they didn't win, they can edit it in their mind to the fact that they did win. They don't like, it's like, you know, an hour later in the day, they're thinking, oh, that's so nice that I won that, you know, that pair of shoes or whatever, you know, like, and when they go to bed, like this is a Neville Goddard technique. When the idea of revision is, and actually he talks about doing that throughout your day in general. Like when something works out in a way that you don't prefer, when you're going to bed that night, to replay your entire day as it was, but all the things that didn't work out, just edit them to working out a little bit better, you know, like as you're falling asleep. And it's funny what that does to our mind. It starts like creating this idea of like, oh, things are always working out for me. And, you know, we get more of those experiences kind of like coming in the physical.
What a good idea. You know, it's funny because I study all this stuff, but there's so many techniques and there's so many different things people can do that are put forth by different teachers that sometimes you forget about some of the classics like that one.
Well,
that's
Helene,
a great idea.
Helene Hansel says spec, right? Select it, project it, expect it, collect it. Expect it is the number one most important thing, in my opinion, from all that. Like
Right.
expectation is so powerful. You know, expectation pulls it. This person's usually annoying when I'm around them, and then you catch them at the worst time. You know, it's like because you're expecting things like, and it certainly plays. And so it's nice to have that sometimes thing when the physical evidence tells you something else. So it's about regarding what senses tell you, right? As much as you can, and just holding the vibration of being the winner, you know?
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah. And that's, I think, how she used to do it, because I think also it didn't hurt that she was working with Jose Silva and was around his energy all the time. That's like
That's
hanging
awesome.
around Neville Goddard and hanging
That's
around,
incredible.
in all these people. And I unfortunately only had 4 days with her in person. I know she's hanging around me now. Um,
Yeah, I love that.
because, when I was working on her first book and I was getting it out, I had a girlfriend say to me, she was highly intuitive. She says, because I said, oh, maybe I'll do one of her books and then I'll work on my next book. And then she said, was Helene funny? I said, yeah, why? She goes, all I just heard was finish my books first, finish my books first. And I thought, okay, Helene,
Well,
yes, I can't hear you. Other people can, but yeah, all right.
something that's very interesting is that I believe, you know, it's are all people who occupied the bodies of great artists, for instance. Like, I wouldn't, as if like John Lennon, the energy that was John Lennon is so passionate about creating music is flowing through today's greatest musicians, you know, like creating that. So maybe Helene has this affinity towards, you know, contests and this, you know, part, and it's like she's using you as a vessel as well to kind of like
Right.
make that, you know, it's interesting. Yeah.
That's
It's
funny.
yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. Why
Yeah.
not? And
No.
I know um she was originally going to have family take over her legacy, but unfortunately there was nobody in her family that was wanting to take it over.
Hmm.
And sometimes I wonder why she picked me, but I think, one, I'm passionate about it like she was, and two, I have two skill sets that she never had, and I'm very entrepreneurial, and I'm also very techy. I'm doing the TikTok, I'm doing the YouTubes, I'm
Love
using
that.
software to edit the books. Like, this was beyond her. Like, she just
Yeah.
didn't have it. She didn't grow up in that era. She was in
When
her
was that?
80s, and she was using like Word, and she's editing documents with the return um space bar and the return key. So I found these documents and I'm like, oh, we're fixing this. I can, because I'm
Well, I think
fairly techie that way. She did, and it made
yeah.
it flow better. Like she'll have one chapter and it talks about the next thing, but then that chapter would be like somewhere else in the book. And I'm like, no, 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 this needs to be over here.
I love that.
So
You guys are like the perfect co-creation, you know?
yeah. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make her stuff better. Like, and I didn't change any of her. She loved to play with words. She was very clever with words and had a lot of fun with that. And so all of her wonky like spellings that she did on purpose, right, to play on words, and some of her things that she said,
Witchcraft. Yeah.
I didn't fix them in the book. Like, if there
Yeah.
was a little bit of odd grammar and stuff that she had specifically put in there, I never changed it. I just fixed things like spelling errors and
Yeah.
um and organized it that way.
That's
But
really cool.
she was fun. But I just want to thank you so much for coming on here, and we're going to get everyone to go check you out on TikTok.
Awesome.
And
Yeah. Aspiring underscore alchemist.
yeah, don't worry, I have all the links. I'm going to blog it too if anybody's wondering, and we're going to have links to Chris and you can check them out. And now we're going to look forward to what big movie and television we're going to put it out there. We're going to see your name in light, so to speak, as a director.
I'm
And
excited.
and we're going to be saying, we knew him when.
Ah, you'll still know me. I'll always be accessible, I think.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks so much for coming and sharing some of your alchemy with us and how we can set our mindsets to being winners.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for the books. I need to look through them some more, actually. I was thinking about that the other day. I really liked what I was reading out of them. So,
well, one of my goals is to do an Audible version of her books.
that'd be
And
sweet.
so it's on my vision board.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, I will be doing audio versions. So you'll be able to listen to them while you're on the treadmill.
Perfect. Because I actually, that's how I listen. That's how I ingest most books, is through audio, actually. So, love that.
Love that. Well, thank you very much with the
Thank
Contest
you.
Queen. And until next time.
Have a good one, guys.